you're coming to me at the peak time, Rick. Um, I've just had this realization that I think I was burnt out before I left, and I've burned myself out further with like the constant moving around.
Welcome to Interesting People in Extraordinary Times. I'm your host, Rick Schroeder, and today we're going to catch up with a colleague of mine, a Los Angeles-based journalist who is off to see the world. And she talks about how enjoyable and at times stressful it can be. And we'll just let her tell you how things are going. Claudia Peschiutta is my guest on today's podcast. All right, let's start. Where the hell are you?
I'm in Pristina, Kosovo.
Oh my God. You went back? Weren't you already there? You went
Yeah,
back? Yeah, you
that's
like
right.
it. You like it.
Yes, I like it. And also, I need a break from moving around so much after nearly 7 months of traveling, like moving every week or so. It's just too much. So I wanted to go somewhere for like 4 to 6 weeks. I wasn't sure where. I tried to get a World Packers gig, which is like a sort of volunteer slash, get free accommodation, free food thing. I tried to get one in Asia and it fell through. And I just needed to make a decision. And I liked it in Kosovo. I made some friends here and I said, I'm just going back.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so all right. You've been to how many places now? How many countries?
Hold on. Let me get my phone so I can tell you
Okay.
exactly.
All right. She'll be right back.
I have a list.
You folks
Uh,
just talk amongst yourselves and we'll
oh, it's right here.
wow.
Okay. So let's see. Um, so 21 countries. Yeah, 21 in like 6.5 months.
Okay, let's back up for a second. What started all this? What popped in your head that just said, I'm off, I'm out of here, that's it. Goodbye.
I've been I've been thinking about this for a long time, for years, um, to the point that when I did some renovations on my condo, I never put up any decor on the wall. Like I knew I was going to rent it out. I just left it pretty spare because I didn't want to repaint again. And so I knew this was coming. And I just started saving up. And also, I wanted to leave before my 50th birthday. I didn't quite make it. It was June 11th, and I left June 16th. Um, but I just didn't want to be at home for a milestone birthday. And I'm doing air quotes for your podcast friends. I didn't want to get like stupid, your old cards or whatever. And I also didn't want to wait any longer because obviously the older you get, the harder it gets to do this kind of trip. So,
Yeah, well,
yeah.
yeah.
And I mean, honestly, I wish I had done it earlier, but as you know, I took care of my dad for many years, and then he died in 2020 at the height of pandemic restrictions and all that. He didn't die of COVID, I have to mention. But yeah, so I couldn't really go then. And then I switched jobs to something that was uh, so many hours a day that it didn't give me any time or space to prepare for this. So then I switched jobs again and got one where I was able to save up, and I did have a little more time and could plan for this. Although I'll tell you, there's never enough planning that you could do for something like this. Like I kept making lists and setting goals and all this stuff. And at the end, it's just like a wild sprint. And you're just, at first you're thinking, oh, I'm going to try to sell my stuff and make a lot of money or whatever. And then at the end, you're like, just please just take this crap out of my house. Just get it out. So, yeah, I didn't feel ready to go. I didn't have my place rented out. Um, I had almost worked out a deal, and we were getting ready to sign the lease that day, and the person um, like had some last minute qualms, and so that fell through, and I had to leave without the place rented, which was a big concern because I needed the income. And my friends hosted another viewing for me, and they found me the tenants, and we did it all
Okay.
online. Yeah, it was very
Great.
nice.
Great. At the very last minute, right? It's jam.
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Yeah, I get the part about being older and traveling. I get that very well because we just were in France and Germany and schlepping around luggage and doing all that things and moving through airports and trains and whatnot. But
Yes.
it still must be exciting to do what you're doing. I mean, despite all the fears of not getting a flight here or a train there, but it still is exciting.
Okay. So I feel like when people ask me about this, I have to tell them it's amazing because I am living a lot of people's dream. And I'll tell you, a lot of the time, it's hard, it's exhausting, it's very lonely to do this by yourself. I'm really glad I'm doing it, but in the way I've been doing it so far, I think is not the best way to do it. So I've been acting like a tourist. And when you're going to travel long term, you have to become a traveler, not a tourist. So you can't be, you know, going to a country and it's like 2 days here, 3 days there, catch all the sights. What you just can't do that because all of us, we need, some kind of a routine. We need downtime. We need to feel like, oh, I have a home, even if it's for a short while. And so, at the beginning, I was moving around like wildly. And then I thought, okay, maybe a couple of weeks in each place, but that's still not enough. So
Yeah.
for the second half of the trip, I think I'm going to try to do like a month or more in each place and really like kind of get to know a place and people. And honestly, like I'm done with seeing cathedrals and palaces, and I'm just done.
Yeah, yeah. No, you want to dive in more and get into the local culture and all the other things that are there and tour the countryside or what have you. It's yeah,
Well, and the thing is, like, after you see like so many places, it's like, months of seeing sights, like, you know, it, it's like anything. Too much of anything isn't good usually. And it just like starts to overwhelm you and you're like trying to retain all the information. Like every place I go, I'm going to read on up on the history and I'm going to learn everything. And I take notes on the tours and stuff. And it's just too much. I'm like, I'm never going to read these notes. I'm going to forget all of this stuff.
but
So yeah.
but are you journaling as you go along? I mean, are you going
Oh
to
yeah, yeah.
fall into
I,
a
I,
yeah,
I
okay.
do take
Yeah.
notes, but um, I don't know if I told you this before I left, but I had pitched a podcast about this, and I brought a recorder and a little mic with me, and I have not used it once. And I also had these plans like, oh, I'll stop and I'll freelance, reports if I'm somewhere where things are happening. And I've been in several places where things have been happening. Zero desire to file any reports.
So the old reporter instincts are gone for now. You
No, no,
whatever.
no. It's not that
Oh,
they're gone. It's just I don't want to do it right now. I
yeah.
just don't.
Yeah.
And honestly, like this realization, like you're coming to me at the peak time, Rick. Um, I've just had this realization that I think I was burnt out before I left, and I've burned myself out further with like the constant moving around. And so that's why I just need to kind of reset. And yeah, I came to Kosovo and I was like, I'm going to do yoga. I'm going to join a gym. I'm volunteering. I'm doing this, that, the other thing. And one of my friends here said something like, maybe the focus should be on being rather than doing. I'm like, "Oh, okay. I've never like lived my life that way." I'm always about just doing, checking things off a list. Um, but yeah, that's exhausting and like not enjoyable. And I expected this year to be like really transformative and like just magical and stuff. And it honestly has not been that. It has not so far. Um, so we'll see how the second half goes. I mean, this all sounds very first world problems, but
Yeah.
I am like I feel very blessed that I do get to do this.
What you're doing it, and that's the main thing. And you adapt as you go along, and you make it work. And
I mean, yes, I've never done this before, so I guess it's a
right,
learning
right. This is a
experience.
learning experience for, yeah. What's your biggest takeaway so far?
Um, well, I think some of what we've talked about, like, you can move at that tourist pace if you're going to do it for a week to maybe a month, a couple months. If you're going to travel long term, you really have to pace it completely differently. Also, seeing a bunch of sites doesn't necessarily make you get to know a place. That's kind of superficial. And I mean, of course, we all do that. Like you first get to a place, okay, you want to see the big things, but really, like some of the things that I've enjoyed most have been relatively small things. Like, okay, this is the first one that pops into mind, but I was in Lombok in Indonesia, and I had rented a scooter and Lord, that was so stressful for me because I was on the opposite side of the road. And I mean, there were like
Oh,
three other people on the road with me, but still I was the slowest and I'd never driven a scooter before. Okay. And so I stopped at this little roadside cafe and I had read that there was like some amazing coffee there. And the guy who runs it, if I'm remembering his name correctly, it was Henry. And he has this special like spice coffee blend that he makes. And we sat there drinking coffee and talking. And we started talking about how we both like to sing. And he pulled out a karaoke speaker and a mic. And we just sat there doing karaoke together on the side of the road. It was pretty memorable. Things like that, like,
yeah.
way better than seeing another museum.
Exactly, exactly. Yeah, how many
Yeah.
museums and cathedrals can you take in your life? Yeah, it's
Yeah. And I guess like when you travel, like you go to Germany and like probably France quite often. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
So you probably also do this kind of travel where you're not being just the tourist, where you're like actually seeing friends.
Yeah, I'm lucky because I'm married to a European and I see it through her eyes and I have been welcomed in by her friends and it's just very, very nice that and the last time we were there, which was last summer, we did Lozert in France between Bordeaux and Toulouse.
Yeah.
Stopped in Toulouse to see a friend of hers she hadn't seen in 35 years. We're sitting in an outdoor cafe having dinner, and I just dawned on me that, damn it, Americans got this all wrong. We just have this all wrong because to them, the people there was about the quality of life
Oh,
and having a nice evening. Nobody had a cell phone in their face. Everyone
mm,
was fucking face to face over a bottle of wine and a dinner
yeah.
and this big outdoor expanse with restaurants and shops and whatnot.
Mm,
And I like to people watch. I just like to sit there and, observe how the people
yeah.
interact. And it was just amazing to me that, we're just here. You go to a restaurant, you got to be done in 45 minutes because they need
Right.
the table for the next customer. And you're just like, no, this is not how it's supposed to work. And having gone with her so many times, other than her trying to kill me at the airport one time, but it's been uh, eye-opening. I'll tell you that when we're off air. Um,
That's for the after show.
that's for the after show. You have to subscribe to that and pay extra.
Yes.
because it's worth it. It's really worth it. Um, but yeah, that's for me the biggest takeaway when we go to Europe, and I've been happy that all of our friends have welcomed me, and we stay in their homes, and I, and that's another thing. I watch how they do their daily lives and things, and
Mhm.
it just interests me. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, the thing you say about, I mean, the way I describe it is, in the US, we live to work, and in other countries, they work to live.
Hmm.
Basically, enough to like make the money you need to then enjoy your time with friends and family. And I had already like gotten a sense of this just from my family being from Argentina and going there so many times, and like the contrast is stark. And even before starting this trip, I had been thinking for years that like I did not want to like keep up with that same kind of lifestyle that I'd been living, where it's like, oh, let's make plans with friends. Okay, everybody take out your calendars and let's schedule it 3 weeks from now.
Yeah.
Um, and then, yeah, like go to dinner, but okay, well, 45 minutes, I got to go because I got to get up early tomorrow. Like, yeah, it's just like an afterthought rather than being the focus.
Hmm. Yeah.
Uh, yeah.
Yeah, and you get the feeling, like friendships over there are very, very real. They're very cherished. Is to have a good group of friends to meet up with after work and have a dinner and
Yeah,
go
and
till nine,
I
10 at
don't
night. And
I don't doubt that people have a lot of cherished friendships in the US, but it's the way like the lifestyle makes it very difficult to kind of allow yourself the time to
yeah.
spend with those people. So anyway, yeah, that's definitely like a takeaway, I think, from travel. I mean, but before this trip, um, and uh, other things uh, that I have learned from this, like, I mean, I wish I had like come up with a list before talking to you, but um, I enjoy my own company, but I've realized that I definitely need a community.
Yeah.
um, like I realized how much I thrive on that. Like, especially during the pandemic and working remotely, I'd grown very comfortable just being at home by myself for many days. But in traveling, and so it's like now I'm out and about, and um, yeah, I can go out to dinner and have a coffee by myself, fine, no problem. But if you're doing it day after day after day, it's not so fun. And so, I've been trying different things to meet people on the road. It's like taking tours. Okay, and you meet somebody on a tour, you take a class, and sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't. But the thing that's worked out for me best so far was um, I wanted to find some expats to spend Thanksgiving with here in Pristina. And so I posted on an expats Facebook page, like, hey, anybody want to do Thanksgiving? Really secretly hoping somebody would just invite me over to their Thanksgiving dinner. And that didn't happen. But a couple of people said, like, oh, we'll meet up with you the day after Thanksgiving. And then I just started hanging out with those people. And then I extended my stay here the first time because then like they introduced me to other people and we started doing things together and it was a lot more fun.
So are you looked at when you meet with these expats as the bringer of news? Oh, here comes this American. What the hell is going on in America? Tell us all about it.
No, not that
No?
I don't get that from the Americans because obviously
Oh,
like with
okay. Yeah.
social media and all that, like they're well aware.
Yeah.
But especially traveling around Europe, like leading up to the election and after the election, uh, definitely a lot of confusion about what's happening there, a lot of concern. Um, yeah, and I think maybe like some people might find it a little funny that after years of being like the world leader and stuff, like now we're going through some of the same problems like their countries have been through. Um, and yeah, so I do get asked about it, and I'm like, honestly, I can't explain. I have some thoughts, but yeah, I have no answers.
Part two is going to take you where? Have you mapped it out yet?
No. So, um, okay, I got here on, well, I got here to Pristina a few days ago, and I wasn't feeling well, and so I've just like taken some downtime. And then I'm going to take some time to plan out the rest of it because in the first half, it was so hard to keep up with the planning. Think about all the time and effort and thought that you put into planning a trip, a 2 week trip, and you'll spend months like coming up with like, oh, I want to go here and there and checking hotels and all this stuff. And I mean, I was just constantly planning, where am I going to stay? How am I going to get there? Trying to figure stuff out. How do I use the transportation system? What do I do about my cell service? Like constantly. And I could not keep up with it. So, for example, I was in Norway and I realized, oh my gosh, I'm running out of days to be in Schengen. And for people who don't know what Schengen is, like much of Europe is in what's called the Schengen zone. So basically, it allows for borderless travel, but that's capped at 90 days without a visa. So I needed to save some of my days because I had two trips planned, one to Berlin and one to Madrid for Christmas to see family. And so suddenly I had to get out of Norway, like immediately. And so I flew to Northern Ireland. No, wait, hold on. Is that what I did? Oh my God, look, I can't even remember. Hold on, the order of things. No, hold on. I left Norway. Oh, and I went to Albania. Oh, yeah. So because a lot of the Balkans are not in Schengen. So,
Right.
yeah. And anyway, a lot of my travel actually in Europe has been on the eastern side because I hadn't been to it, and also it's way more affordable, and more people should be coming here because there's so much to see and a lot of natural beauty, uh, history, like very recent history to learn about. But anyway, so what I'm saying is like I would just book a flight 24 hours, 48 hours beforehand, just like go wherever without really any thought. And so that's the kind of thing I don't want to be doing anymore.
Okay. Yeah. And how much longer is this going to go on?
I mean, so far I've been like doing okay, fingers crossed with the budget. Um, I do you want to hear about the budgeting for something like this?
Sure.
Okay, so this is going to sound wild, but I set myself a daily max limit of spending of $150, which sounds like a lot. But when you're doing all the travel by yourself, you're not splitting expenses with someone. So it really does add up. Um, but I've been able to stay well below that in a lot of countries. But then places like Iceland, I blew that budget huge, like just blew it out of the water. And so I try to, balance it out. Then, okay, so traveling in a more affordable country, and then, so the last time I checked, I pretty much had like kept it at 150 a day. It had worked out. So yeah, and if somebody does something like this, like in a couple or pair, whatever, it would be much more affordable. There were also like things that I wanted to do that I knew would be expensive, but is a list of like 5 or 6 things that I really wanted to hit this year. And I was like, okay, just eat the expense. So one was learning to scuba dive on the Great Barrier Reef, which I did because, a lot of the reef has been dying and I wanted to see it now. Um, I wanted to see the Northern Lights, so did a road trip in Iceland. Um, I still have some that I need to get to, but see Eastern Europe. I've really checked that one. Um, Bhutan, I want to go to, and I want to go to the Galapagos Islands.
Have you set a date for the grand return to the US?
No,
Just kind of like
no,
whenever?
and I don't know that. I will return to the US.
Oh, that's
Uh,
new.
that's something else I need to think about. But yeah, I like have zero homesickness. I miss people, but I mean, don't get me wrong. I love LA. I miss like certain things about it, but I do not feel homesick at all. Um, and there's a part of me that hopes I'll show up in a city and just feel like, oh, this is home. But I think that might be unrealistic, kind of like hoping to fall in love, like things take a little work and it's not all, puppies and rainbows. So I don't know. I don't know. But um, yeah, I got a lot to figure out in the next few months.
It'll come. It'll come to you. I mean, just don't force it. Don't try to make it happen. Just let it happen wherever
I
that
know because
is.
the thing is if I decide that I'm not going back, then I will have to, you know, make some moves in terms of like getting a visa and figuring things out like that, getting a job. So I can't leave it till the last minute, but whatever, the last minute is not now. So I'm
Yep.
going to put it
Yep.
aside for now.
Hey, it's been really great to talk to you, and
Yeah,
I'm
you too.
really happy for you that you're
Thank
doing
you.
what you want to do and enjoying it, and for the most part. And yeah,
Yeah, thank you. And sorry for all the times I hung up on you. Sometimes you deserved it, but a lot of times you didn't.
thanks for watching and listening to my podcast, and we'll be back soon with another episode.